Hello there, it's Plug-in Bob. I didn't think to be doing any more YouTube videos, but after a conversation with Mohammed, just going to put out a few Rome Total War battles, some exciting battles, things to learn, just to help to advertise the Rome Total War, the game, and its the exciting battles you can have. So this is a 4 versus 4, mainly the Greeks versus the Roman players. Most of these are all great players, all from clans and are regular sort of players of the game. So without much further ado, I should probably let this roll. We're going to look at the teams first of either side, and then get straight into the match with probably a summary or analysis after the match, where perhaps I'll point a few things out where things could have improved or a few mistakes. So I shall let this roll and hope you enjoy the battle.
Choose your next words carefully. They may be your last as king.
Right, well, let's get right into the battle here. You can see everybody's starting in their starting formations, quite a distance away from everybody, and the usual procedure is just to move into the centre, start to sort of gather on one position so all the armies can mutually support each other. Here Bark's moving up, Mo's moving up on the Carthaginian right flank, although his cavalry is a bit far away, obviously protecting the Spartans who don't have any cavalry protection. Looks like Paglia, who's opposite me, he's up for the fight. Well, he will be in a minute. He's a bit aggressive here. He can start to move maybe a bit early before his side's formation's fully formed. Already the Macedonians are skirmishing against Myra using the Cretan archers. And here Mo's cavs supporting his troops behind his infantry. And here comes Paglia moving his troops up fairly early before even Bark of the Brotherhood's moved. And see how fast Spartan Senate troops are, the infantry. And he's moved his cavalry up very early, which could be a worrying sign. Because Mo's got his troops stuck a little bit forward here, and they're making an early move, grabbing the ground with the infantry, and he's moving his cav up as well. Satan, that could be one, because now you got a no, that's not good. Mo's moved his troops far too much forward. He has made formation into the testudo, but we've got 3 groups of cav here surrounding him. That doesn't look good. Doesn't look good. No, that's not good. I'm trying to stop here. I'm trying to stop myself screaming. Here we go. This isn't good at all. It's committed troops holding my Carthaginians up. This could be a complete disaster here. Yep. There goes all the Mo's infantry. Mo's sending his cav. The Spartans are coming in. Got some Carthaginian cav coming in late, but that isn't going to do too much. I think they're going to get away with that with most of their cavalry to spare. And there goes the whole of Mo's infantry there. And the Spartans are completely out of position all over the shop. So kudos to Satan, Bark, Paglia and Myra coordinating their cavalry well. Here we see looks like Paglia's committed half of his troops, and also Myra's joined him. They've got a small battle group at the back here which has been harassed by Macedon, by Titan Sparky. So yes, the beginning has started not too brilliantly. So it's a mess, and so effectively now we've got less infantry, less archers, less cavalry than our opposition. But Titan Spark is doing a very good job with the Macedonians harassing the enemy archers at the back there. But we're in battle. You can't really sort of stop. So we've just got to plough on through here. Although we've got a great battle here in the middle. We've got Spartans. They don't want to commit too many here, because if he commits too many, they can pin him here and sweep round the behind him, and then we can have problems. We've got to watch our back now because they've got cav majority. That's Satan moving his cav over to the far right. Probably going to go for those archers at the back there. Macedon, it's a bit defenseless there. Now he's thrown some cav in to help. That's not too good. They are attacking the Macedonian pipes. That's no good. But here we can see that we've committed. The Spartans they're holding the right flank, which is useful. He's got 2 armies to face here, unfortunately. He's sent some of his troop in to help us, and we've got a great number crunch here in the middle. That's going semi well actually. I think we're winning in a small linear group where we can commit a lot of hoplites in one area. We can have like 3 hoplites versus 2 Romans. That's always going to go well for us here. There's a lot of Macedonians here that aren't committed. So effectively we're winning the left flank here. Unless they can do something with their cav to break up the Macedonians. And there's a lot of cav movement here by our opponents on team 2 because they have got the cav strength now. But it is a lot more difficult from those cav because most of the troops that are left now are all pikemen or hoplites, so it's very difficult for them to get a great advantage of their cav. It might even be worth just sticking their cav at the back and concentrating on maybe on manoeuvres. Here we see the Spartans again keeping that gap. They don't want to fully commit here, but they are starting to break through in the centre there. That's why Satan's having to commit a lot of his troops there in the middle to shore up that middle area for the Romans, because the hoplites are starting to break through, and this flank is very difficult for the Romans. That's why they're trying to do a few testudos there. There's a heavy amount of micro going into cav movement here by both Mo here keeping trying to harass the enemy cav. I think he's nearly caught a few there, and there's a couple of Judai cav, that's Mirror's cavs, pushing the Macedonian archers away, far away. But the Roman right wing is weak. Oh, that's a good charge there by Macedonia. That's Titan Spark again. That's gonna hurt. They look a bit reduced, those cav, but any little helps, and that centre was buckling there. That means Satan's going to definitely have to commit his troops into the to reinforce that Judai line. And again, massive amount of cav movement around the back. They're looking for opportunity, but that rear has been secured by Cornovi and the 2 Romans left of Mo and the Spartans, and again some of the Macedonians there by Tartan Spark here holding out. But Mo's done a good strike there. He's keeping himself in the battle, Mo, and that's what you need from the player who's been damaged. Despair is not Mo's thing. He's attacking heavily. So let's have a quick look again. We're grinding, or Titan Spark is grinding away at that weak Roman right. The centre's got a massive troop there of the Judai, and that's going well-ish for us. They're losing some, but we're losing some, and that's forcing Satan to commit a lot of his troop on the right flank, on his left flank, and in that centre position. Right, so there are enemy cabs behind us now. Thus you can see there's a lot of hoplites and Macedonian phalanx troops protecting the rear. It looks like Bark's trying to move around and flank the Spartans here on that right wing. He's trying to open up the Spartans to make them overcommit everywhere, and that'll create they'll be weak at the back somewhere, and you might be able to sneak cav in for a charge. There's a bit of a gap there, but it's vulnerable. If they charge it and a few of those Spartans or Roman troops commit backwards, they could rout that cav and trap them. So, bit of a trap opening there, I think. I think that's not a clear charge position. And the Macedonians are starting to flank on our left and starting to chew up those Romans, those Julii. They're taking some losses on that left flank there. They really ought to be a bit more. That's better. As I say, they need to do something somewhere. The team 2 there, they've committed the Brutii in heavily now onto the Spartans. They've got virtually an army and a half on those Spartans. So those Spartans are doing well, trying to keep 1.5 armies of Romans committed on our right flank. So losing battle, but they need to hold and buy time for the other flank to win. Looks like a couple of Judai troops there routing it in the middle. And looks like Mo's actually broken a couple of the enemy cav there. They were pursuing him there. I think they were Bark's cav. Yeah, I think they were Bark's cav. But it's a bit of a mess here. We've got winning on the left flank. Their Romans are being chewed up in the middle. although both sides are taking losses. Now with the commitment of Satan and Bark's troop here on the right flank, Cornovite is losing, although he is slowing things down, which is what we need. And here comes Mo here with a cav charge. This could prove interesting if he gets a good hit. Should get some damage. Looks like he's... no, that's one of his cav routed. I think he's done some damage, but it hasn't been decisive. No major routes. But that right flank there is where we're losing. He's putting the cav out before it gets trapped. I think 3 of them are still trapped there. Cav charge by Paglia at the back there. This is where pikemen and hoplites can have problems. If you have to overcommit, you won't be able to defend your rear, and then cav can prove very decisive. But as long as they don't overpressure the Spartans and the Macedonians, they will still have a rear guard. But again, massive amount of cav movement at the back there. That's Mo fighting Bart's cav again. Here it's a mess. Spartans are starting to lose now though. They're being broken by the sheer overwhelming amount of Brutii and Roman legionnaires. The centres, Satan's fighting the centre and reinforced the right flank. But again, I think the Macedonian player here, Titan Spark, is having an easy time right here on his left flank. They haven't overcommitted the Romans on this side of the battlefield, and he's having a good amount of putting down a lot of pressure with those pikes, and it's doing well. You can see the amount of routes that are occurring on that side. There's a lot of cav movement at the back with archers, as the team 2 are protecting their archers with their cattle. It comes Mo again with another charge, but unfortunately here it looks like Paglia is ready for it. He's committing some cav. Bark of the Brotherhood's now committing cav. Mo's got a reserve cav coming in. More Spartans coming in, and it's chaos. I think that's a general down. That's probably, I think that's Pagi's general. That's unfortunate. He's died to probably the Carthaginians there. Mira's general's still active there. He's just hanging on, although it looks like he's going to be surrounded. That's Mira's archers. More cav movement. Yeah, they're going to surround that the Roman left there. That's bad for the Romans, and the Spartans are just starting to break down the Romans. It's a matter of who breaks first now. You've got the left wings collapsing for each player. They're winning on, the Romans are winning on their left, and we're winning on our left with the Macedonians. So it's a matter of who can win first, and then put as much pressure as they can in the middle, which is both sides are losing at the moment. I think probably Team 2 are spending a little bit more time with their cav, and that's thanks to Mo keeping them active at the back. Hold still. Yeah, the plethora of Romans here pushing through on the right flank. Cav charges against Macedonians are always dicey. Good if you get a back charge, but if they put the pikes down like that, you're going to lose some, and if depending on the tiredness of your cavalry, you can even lose your cavalry. But that's Mira's general now surrounded. That's my general fighting in the centre. There was not much Carthaginians left. There's a few Spartans hanging on, and that could be was that the Spartan general? Oh, and the Macedonian general. So literally, I think we've lost all the generals on our side now, apart from my general, and that's worrying because Macedon's got a lot of troops left. And Macedon tends to be rather weak if the general's not around. They've lost one Judei, and they've lost the Senate general, was that? I'm not sure. I know the Brutii general's still around. That's the Carthaginian army virtually disintegrated in the centre. But that looks like, yeah, that's Mira's general gone. That's their left gone. Or their right flank gone. Satan's thrown in a few legionnaires to hold things up, to delay things while they sort out their own left flank. So we move now to the end game. Both flanks have collapsed for each player. There's not much left of the Greeks apart from the Macedonians. There's a few Spartans fighting out, and they're now being decisively surrounded and cut down by the legionnaires of Bark with his Brutii and Satan's forces. There's a couple of cav there for Bark, 2 cav there at the back. Other than that, it's just Macedon really. I think, yeah, there's a cavalry at the back there still active. May have forgotten about an archer there. A few bits and bobs. I think I've only got my general left. Yep, the lone general there, fighting away at the back. We're still fighting away. Mo's, I think, only got that 1 cav left, which he's making good use of. Getting some rear charges. Got to be a bit careful now. Cav are liable to break when they're tied and in small numbers. And now we focus. It's coming down to Barks with his 2 cav. There's 1 unit of Spartans just about. About 3. There's some cav there, and about 3 legions from Satan. What's a good cav charge? That could rout them with a good recharge. No, it didn't. Or did it? No, that's the Senate routing. I think there's about 6 or 7 legionnaire units, like urban cohorts commanded by Bark, still left. That's another Senate legion gone, and that's Sparky's reserves pulling up to the rear of the armour group. So it's just basically urban legions versus Macedon, which probably got more troops, but he hasn't got a general, and Bark does have a general. So he needs to make use of the archer. He's still got the archer, he's still got his cav. I think I would be trying to move my units around a bit, trying to make these Macedonians spread out a bit. You want to set up a chance, good chance to get a rear cav charge, because with that general gone, you might be able to break them. Try and kill off the general unit maybe. Oh, there's a Senate cav out the way, 20 left. Most cavs still around as well, although they're rather weak. That's the Senate gone, I think. No, it's just the Senate infantry. There's still that cav that's miles away up the battlefield. But don't, whatever you do, allow Macedon to surround you, otherwise Rome is probably going to lose this. He's moving his cav round for a rear charge, but I want to get those Romans moving. If they're stationary, they're going to be an easy kill to finish off if they get surrounded. And Barky is trying to move his cav right round the back. There's some Macedons surrounding the urbans there. That's going to be dodgy. All matters whether this cav here, that's Mo's cav killing off. That's the last archer, I think, from Brutii. And here's the Brutii cav charge on the rear of the Macedonians. I think Sparky managed to turn his pikes down, but one of them's routed, one of the Macedonians. But that looks like that's the cav gone, is it? There's another urban coming in from Satan, and a cav charge from Mo, and that's those Satan's urban gone. And I think that's the last of Brutii's cav, which means, are they being surrounded? This is it. This is the last moments. My general still... My general could even stay to finish the fight. That's the last Carthaginian, and that's the last of the Brutii being surrounded and being poked to death by those pikemen, with Mo's last cav watching on. So a good performance there by the Titans combo of Titans Sparky and Titans Mo. You've got to be a good player to be in the Titans clan. It's always been the way. And a fantastic effort by them, and a fantastic effort by Cornovi of the Heaven clan, holding that right wing with his Spartans. Here we have the victory table. A good match, well, fantastic kills by most of the opposition, so they've done well, and they're very close in score. Sparky particularly done well, and also Mohammed here. A good performance, fantastic job by all the players here, I thought. Not much in the way of errors. There was only a few perhaps minor position errors. I think I've done a couple of moves which were a little difficult, but I'll look at them at the summary. But yeah, overall I thought this was a very good battle, highlighting which tends to be a fight on either flank for dominance, and whoever gets the win on the flank first can then sort of destroy the centre and go on possibly to win the game. And I think this highlights here how this can be done, despite the fact that we lost one group of infantry, but no fault on. It was a hard fought battle, but I think we managed to take the initiative after we lost the infantry there. They tried to make their cavalry. The cavalry wasn't very effective after they killed the Romans. They really couldn't find a good target to destroy, and I think they spent a little bit more time microing the cav than they needed to do. But overall, a good battle. Hope you enjoy it, and then we'll move on to the summary. Right, so we're going to finish the video now with a little look at a few pluses and minuses of the battlefield. First of all, let's look at the starting forces here. As we can see on the first team, they've got significantly less missile troops and cavalry, although they have enough archers and infantry. We suggest that Team 2 would have probably used their cavalry and archers in a more skirmish type battle, which I don't think they really made particular use of. Alright, the cavalry charge was certainly decisive, but it was never really going to be that effective against the other 3/4 of the armies that were opposing them. As far as the matchup of the armies, MTP stands for a multiple of units. Average is just the cavalry and infantry type of formation, and we can see that the player opposite the Macedonian team picked a infantry cavalry missile type mix, which was probably a good selection. Average, that was cavalry and infantry against the Carthaginians, which is probably okay. That was the, what was that now? That was Moe's Romans with the average against what was that, Scipio or something. That was another skirmish army, so probably a bit weak. I would expect maybe an average army for a centre force, because you're probably going to be flanked for either side, so probably a little bit unusual, but not well, considering the fact they wiped out Moe's army infantry pretty quickly. Again, that's not going to be a material problem. And on the wing, we have the Spartan infantry against a mixed army of cavalry and infantry being average. So that's probably what you really want on the flank, having the cavalry, so you can make use of the flank. Let's now look at the errors. And here we are. We have Moe's decision to push his army forward here. You can see how far forward it is of my Carthaginians on the left, and you can see the enemy cavalry shaping up ready to attack here. And certainly this infantry army is pushing this too far forward, particularly when it's vulnerable to a cavalry charge. It's got to be classed as an error. I mean, I've seen it done, and possibly given a bit more time, we could have possibly reinforced it with some Carthaginians or some Spartans and made it a little bit more resistant to a cavalry charge. But this was not to be. Another error worth mentioning here was my slingers, which unfortunately were behind the lines. Unfortunately, the enemy was in range, and therefore they were throwing. They throw directly. And although I wasn't in my directive position in here, I just left them because I was too busy trying to get the pikes down properly. They will shoot the back of your troops, which the Macedonian player may have been made a note of during the battle. I seem to remember him been quite vocal about that. So don't do that. Don't have your direct fire troops lingering behind your battlefield. Keep them to the extreme wings if you can. But this was a mistake of mine. The next topic was exploit an advantage, and I think this was yes, this was about the battlefield here. I think for the team 2 they made a slight mistake here after they won the great cavalry advantage by smashing Mo's army, his infantry. I wouldn't have particularly wanted them to engage the Carthaginians. What probably, as you can see here on the photograph, they immediately engaged the Carthaginians, pinned eventually both Roman armies in onto the battlefield, which then secured the wing here. As you can see here, the Macedonians joined in, and that really committed the Romans, the team 2's right flank forces into the battle and fixed them in position. A far better move, I would have thought, would be to stand off the Carthaginians, defer the flank with your second Julian army, and then probably put because they have the missile troops and the cavalry advantage now, put them on the extreme right wing and flank the Macedonian forces. Get those archers into position. You can see that's the block with the arrow pointing out, that's the archer forces, using the NATO symbols. Start shooting the Macedonian pikes from the flank. Some cavalry forces behind them just to support them, and hopefully you might be able to lure the last remaining enemy cav, which was mainly Mo's cavalry, into a cavalry fight where you can beat them. All the while just taking pot shots and wearing down those Macedonian forces. Keep kiting back. Don't allow a fight until you really have to, because you really want to wear those forces down. Similarly, where we had the Senate forces here, I think it's Satan's forces were eventually forced to support the Julii push in the centre, because there was some flanking opportunities where the hoplites were starting to break around the flank, and thus Satan committed his forces there to stop that from a breakthrough occurring there. But again, if those forces aren't committed, he could then, rather than attack there, he could have come behind the Spartans while the Brutii forces keep the Spartans in position, flank around, come around the back, and that would create a bigger threat if he moved his infantry block around that way, with his cavalry in support to protect his infantry. Again, challenging Mo to what are you going to do about it, because he's got the main cavalry support. While you're doing that, you can then stretch the Spartans to cover both front, back and side, and then allow your archers to start taking pot shots at the back or onto the flank of Spartans. Use those archers, make a more decisive impact with those archers. You got them, use them. And I don't think they really used they did use them, but I don't think they really got the best out of their archers for this battle. I think the exploitation of the advantage of micro. That was just showing the Spartan. This is when Satan could have moved, because the Spartans were all out of salt at the time, just after the cav. So this was the moment to exploit if they could have done so. But again, it didn't turn out that way anyway. I think the next question was probably about it was about the I forgot where it was now. Go back again. Oh yeah, advantage of micro. To some degree, when the cavalry battle took place and Mose lost his infantry, that gave us a great advantage. On the flank, the Macedonians were only very lightly committed with their infantry, so he could focus more of his micro on his cav and his archers, harassing mirror. I was all in on the centre, so there was no real problems for me micro in there. Or a few missile troops were just shooting us in the back, but I moved them and sorted that out. There was also the Mo then could concentrate on his cav, which is very useful. because he's more flexible that way, because you just have to worry about the movement and just the cavalry. And the Spartans were all infantry anyway, so you didn't have to worry about multitudes of forces. Whereas our opponents at that time had to worry about archers, infantry, and all of these are scattered across the battlefield. And so you've got, for example, here you've got Satan's got his infantry right at the far end, his cavalry is right at the other end of the battlefield. Miro had some of his cav chasing the Macedonian archers all the way up the field and then back again. You see here that I think it was the Brutii and the other Judei player was putting their cav round the back. So the strain of micro of going back to the cav, back to the archers, back to the infantry was more difficult for the opposition. To some degree, by destroying Mo's infantry that early, it actually aided us in the battle, gave us a little chance to just make control and command a bit easier. So there's a weird irony there that the more you destroy the enemy, the easier it is to control the rest of your forces.